The U.S. Air Force has confirmed that the United States has started physically building the next-generation B-21 Raider aircraft. The B-21's capabilities are the subject of intense speculation, and there is little doubt that the upcoming plane will substantially expand the Air Force's capabilities. However, the Air Force has a logistics problem. Once the Raider enters service, the U.S. Air Force will separately be flying 4 different bomber aircraft, several of which overlap substantially in their intended missions. Currently, the United States operates the B-1 Lancer, the B-2 Spirit, and the B-52 Stratofortress. Although the B-1 and B-2 are intended to be phased out over time, this process will take at least a decade, and during this time, the Air Force's operation of 4 separate bombers is likely to be costly and inefficient. The B-21 Raider is the first new Air Force bomber since 1988, the year the B-2A Spirit was unveiled. Named after Doolittle's Raiders, the force of B-25 Mitchell bombers that bombed Tokyo in the spring of 1942. The B-21 is designed to overcome modern air defense threats, including such systems as the Russian S-400 surface-to-air missile system and Chinese J-20 stealth fighter to penetrate enemy airspace. The B-21 will be capable of carrying precision-guided conventional missions and nuclear weapons. The B-21 will be a flying wing design, a specialty of Northrop Grumman's since the end of World War II. The blending of the fuselage and wing, combined with the lack of horizontal and vertical stabilizers in the rear, is generally thought of as the best shape possible to avoid enemy radars from all directions. A bomber penetrating deeply into enemy territory will likely have radar waves bouncing off it from multiple angles, making all-around stealth a necessity. The recently sparked some conversation, as reporters and aviation enthusiasts discussed the new plane's features. Here's a sketch of the B-21 with notes by reporters from Aviation Week and Space Technology. Overall, the trend for the B-21 is a refinement of the B-2A's original flying wing shape. The leading-edge shape of the B-21 is simpler than the B-2A's sawtooth trailing edge. The cleaner, simpler trailing edge is probably how the original stealth bomber was supposed to look, but in the 1980s, a last-minute demand by the Air Force that the Spirit be capable of low-altitude flight necessitated an expensive design change. As a result, per Aviation Week's analysts, the plane is likely optimized for medium and high-altitude flight. Experts believe the B-21 will be smaller than the B-2A, running about 2/3 the size and weight of the older bomber. This is reflected in the fact that the B-21 rendering features fewer main landing gear wheels. The aircraft simply needs fewer landing wheels to support a lighter airplane. Aviation Week points out that the rendering displays a shorter fuselage and air inlets farther forward than the older bomber. This is all to increase internal volume for crew life support, fuel, sensors, and weapons. As a stealthy airplane, the B-21 must store all weapons, sensors, fuel, and other items internally, so space is at a premium. The Air Force plans to buy at least 100 B-21 Raiders, though ideally, the service would like 200 or more. The aircraft is currently under development at Northrop Grumman's facilities in Palmdale, California, with the first demonstrator aircraft in the construction phase. The bomber was originally supposed to fly in late 2021, but that date will likely slide into early 2022. Air Force Lieutenant General David S. Nahom addressed these concerns at a Mitchell Institute for Aerospace Studies event on July 14. Nahom described the four-plane outlook as not affordable. The B-1 and B-2, as phenomenal as they are, we've got to get those out of service as the B-21 comes on. Nahom indicated that the Air Force would focus on a two-bomber fleet, consisting of the B-21 and a substantially upgraded version of the B-52. The B-52 is one of the oldest and longest-serving planes in the U.S. Air Force. The contract to produce the aircraft was negotiated in 1946, and the first B-52's maiden flight took place in April 1952. Next year, the aircraft will mark its 70th year in service. Roughly 70 of the planes remain in the service of the U.S. Air Force. The B-52s currently in service, however, have been substantially upgraded from their 1950s counterparts. Nahom described ongoing upgrades to the plane, including avionics upgrades and re-engining. The general expressed concern that these planes would be inoperable during the upgrade phase, potentially weakening the U.S. air fleet. "We're going to have a deficit in availability," Nahom said, "while those airplanes are being modified. That is my biggest concern on the bomber fleet, over the next, I'll call it, 5 to 7 years. The Air Force has elsewhere indicated that the B-21's first flight will take place in 2022. At that time, the first of the B-1 and B-2 bombers are scheduled for disassembly at the Air Force's Boneyard in Tucson, Arizona. The Air Force had earlier indicated that the B-1 would be fully phased out by 2036.